Hey guys, welcome back to Dylan's Little Hobbies, and in today's video, guess what? I finally got to see Into the Spider-Verse. It was on Netflix, and I figured I'd watch it. I wanted to see it because I kept hearing how good of a movie it was, but I will be honest with you, it's not part of the cinematic universe by Disney Marvel, so I kind of let this one slide underneath the radar. I did want to see it because I kept hearing how good of a movie it was, but I mean, it's Spider-Man, and it's kind of funny. Well, the fact is, Iron Man is my favorite superhero. Tony Stark is my favorite superhero, and the reason why is because of how Tony Stark is just a genius man who had a great injury, who turned that injury into one of the greatest superpowers ever. But Tony Stark is not a superhero because of the suit. Tony Stark, Iron Man, is a superhero because of his heart. Anyway, let's move on from that. The thing is, Spider-Man was my first superhero ever. Iron Man's always going to be my favorite, but Spider-Man was my first superhero ever. And why isn't Spider-Man my favorite? Well, the reason why is kind of childish. So the fact is, I used to watch a Spider-Man TV show. It used to be reruns, and the last episode of the season was canceled, and I never got to see it. Obviously, it's probably in the comics, but then he was, of course, brought into the cinematic universe, and I've enjoyed him. I've enjoyed his new take, the new actor, I can't remember his name, but this guy, his take on the new Spider-Man in the cinematic universe has been a lot of fun to enjoy. And of course, I've seen tons and tons and tons of Spider-Man TV shows growing up. But this movie is actually made not by the cinematic universe. This movie is made, in fact, by Sony. And you know what? Sony actually has a great movie when it comes to Spider-Man. And yet, no one even thinks about this franchise because of what happened in Spider-Man 3. And it's the Tobey Maguire series. The very first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man to me is Spider-Man. I saw that movie when I was a kid. That wasn't my first introduction to Spider-Man, of course. I watched the reruns of the show before that, but that was my first introduction to Spider-Man into the movies, and I really, really loved that movie. I thought that the first movie was fantastic. The second movie, I know a lot of people have problems with the second movie, but I thought the story they gave Doc Ock was actually really compelling, and I really, really enjoyed the second movie. I really did. Now you want to talk about Spider-Man, the third movie. A lot of people forget that this movie even existed. A lot of people forget that this franchise even existed because everyone thinks about this movie when they think about the franchise. This movie, hands down, is one of the greatest examples of how one movie can ruin a franchise. I'm looking at you, Star Wars! What's really funny is they not only make references to it, but they actually say in this movie how we don't even talk about it anymore. I love that little joke in the beginning of this movie. But in fact, this new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, actually starts out with our original Sony Spider-Man. Of course, I don't believe it's Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man anymore, but I do like the fact that we have somewhat of a small continuation of this original Spider-Man character that I knew and loved from the movies. And when I say continuation, I actually mean that as a complete joke because he's killed off in the first 10 minutes of the movie. I wished there was actually more of this Spider-Man because, well, he's the Spider-Man from my childhood, the one that I grew up on, the one that I saw the movies about. So, to know that this character from the very first Spider-Man movies that I saw gets killed in this movie in the first 10 minutes of the movie, kind of gives me a sore spot, you know? But that doesn't mean that this is a bad movie by any means. No, it's just kind of sad that they killed off that character right away. But I digress. What is the movie actually about if it's not about our Sony original Spider-Man? This movie is in fact about a new Spider-Man, a new young kid on the scene. And his name is Miles. I really enjoyed Miles' character and his attitude towards superheroism, and the way he reacted to how he got his powers reminds me so much of the original Spider-Man movie that I really, really did enjoy the whole story when it came to Miles. Plus, it's quite a different take on the Spider-Man story. I mean, we all know what the original Spider-Man story is. Spider-Man is pretty much an orphan. His parents are gone. He lives with his Uncle Ben and his Aunt Beru. Eventually, thanks to his own stupid actions, he unfortunately causes the death of his uncle, with his uncle's words always hanging in his mind. With great power comes great responsibility. He has fire powers. You know the rest. Well, this story actually changes it up a little bit, and I actually really enjoyed that. So he has his dad, he has his mom, he has a somewhat on the bad kind of guy team uncle, but his uncle really loves him, and he wants to be a good guy for him. Unfortunately, later on in the movie, we find out that unfortunately that he never had the chance to become a good guy, the guy that he wanted to be for his nephew. But one day, while spending some time with his uncle, he actually goes down and is graffitiing up a wall, New York graffitiing up a wall, and a spider walks up to him and bites him. And you know, I love this scene because you think, oh my god, it's the spider. It's going to bite him. He's going to get Spider-Man powers. And it's so dramatic, and all it is that the very last scene, it's a simple bite, and all he does is whack it away. I thought that was hilarious. But of course, he gets Spider-Man powers the next day, starts freaking out about it, goes back to where he saw the spider, and sees the spider's corpse, obviously, when he runs in to none other than Spider-Man himself, our Tobey Maguire universe Spider-Man. And yeah, it's the same universe. And what happens is he's fighting the Kingpin. The reason why is because the Kingpin has a special device that is somehow, and I can't remember exactly what they called the machine, but basically it's opening up a world to another multiverse, and it's weird. And it's really weird when you see the Kingpin. I mean, look at this guy! Look at this guy! This is Kingpin? Okay, when I think of Kingpin, you know, in the old Spider-Man movies, Kingpin was a big guy. The Spider-Man TV shows, Kingpin has always been a big guy. Even when you talk to the cinematic universe, the Kingpin in Daredevil is a big guy. This is taking it a little too far. However, it's actually not the worst thing in the movie. The worst thing in the movie is this! What the heck is this? We'll be talking about that later. But for now, Spider-Man is trying to activate his machine, and we actually find out later on why the Kingpin wants to do this. It's because he wants to reunite with his wife and with his dead son, which is actually pretty sad. Spider-Man tries to fight him. He meets Miles. Kingpin comes in. Kingpin fights him. And unfortunately, the machine does go on, and Kingpin kills Spider-Man. The Kingpin kills Spider-Man. There is a joke there. There is also a statement there. At the same time, I am not the right person to say it. Miles, as well as the rest of the city, now knows that Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, is dead. And Miles, with this new Spider Power, hopefully defeat Kingpin and his evil machine. Unfortunately, of course, he breaks the key. But wait! There's another Spider-Man. This guy's kind of chubby. He's got brown hair. He's a little bit old. He's a little bit over it. He broke up with Mary Jane in his universe. He's just pretty much tired of being Spider-Man. At the same time, he gets stuck into a new universe and meets, hopefully, the new Spider-Man. When he finds out the Spider-Man is dead, he ends up meeting Miles. Yep. And this is where the story pretty much goes on. Along the way, we meet other Spider-Mans, or should I say, Spider-Woman? This girl. Actually, we know exactly who this girl is, and for the life of me, I'm gonna write it down here. I cannot remember, as of the making of this video, what her name is. Gwen something. I can't remember her last name. But in her universe, she got bit by a spider and her best friend Peter Parker died, unfortunately. In Spider-Man's universe, the Fat Spider-Man universe, he's pretty much over everything, but he still wants to return to his home. And then we actually meet other Spider-Mans. There's this, and I can't remember her name at all, but there's this little girl who made friends with a spider and made a mech suit, which, okay. And then there's this really cool black and white detective Spider-Man that I just absolutely, I wish we had more of him. And then there's this thing. Well, what, well, how'd that song go? Spider Pig, does whatever a spider pig. Okay, I have no words for this thing. This thing actually pretty much terrifies me, but it's Spider Pig. I'm pretty sure the only reason why this thing is there is because of the darn Simpsons. Moving on. It's a fantastic story. Spider-Man Miles has to, of course, not only help his new friends get into their old universes, but he has to become the Spider-Man the world needs in his universe as well. And it's actually a really fun and compelling story. And the best thing about it is the art. I'm not even kidding. Now, I enjoyed Miles' story. Miles' story was probably the best part of the movie. But the art, I've never seen anything like it. It really has captured the whole comic book feel in an animated movie. That has never really been done before, as far as I can see, and they've done a fantastic, wonderful job. 7 stars just for that. I'll give you a star for Miles' story, and then I'm also going to give you a star for changing up the Spider-Man story itself. Not to mention, here's the thing, it's called Spider-Man, the whole Spider-Man multiverse, the Spider-Man into the multiverse. With that said, this basically has said, because obviously in the new Marvel Cinematic Universe, we are getting into the multiverse theory. So, this is their way of saying, hey, guys, everything Marvel has ever done or ever come out with is actually canon. With that said, I really liked this movie. I really enjoyed the look of the movie, the story of the movie. I'm giving it 9 out of 10. I kind of wish there was a little less of Spider-Pig and a little bit more of the original Sony Spider-Man. But with that said, considering that's the only thing I didn't actually like in the movie, I think it's a pretty fantastic movie. Also, there's this little something with the uncle that I didn't talk about this movie, and the reason why is because I don't want to spoil it. It's actually a really, really important scene that just got to my heart when I saw it. Thank you guys for watching. What did you guys think of Into the Spider-Verse? I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm out. Bye.